Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Freelancers Mindset Shortcast. Thanks so much for the support, and we love having you here. The guest we have for today is somebody very special to me. He's someone I met during my very first month of freelancing. And while a lot of my connections have come and gone, he has stuck around till now. Say hello to Rana Balmiki. He is a freelance digital marketer and content marketer based in Guwahati. He currently handles multiple projects in content marketing and social media across India. Hey Rana, welcome to the call.
Hi, Meenakshi. Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here.
Awesome. So, one thing that makes you special for the podcast is you are one of the very few people I know who dabbles in both full time as well as freelance. So,
Okay.
how do you balance your full time job with your freelance career? What difference do you notice between both of them?
Um, the answer to this is a priority. Yeah, I have to
Mhm.
prioritize my tasks. When I am at my full-time job, I have to take care of my day job, which is that. And when I'm freelancing, and though even though I have multiple clients, I don't work for them every single day. I don't do their work every single day. So whatever is at priority, I prioritize that task and I finish it accordingly. And whatever the
Mhm.
deadline is, that's how I prioritize my tasks. And one thing that's helped me is always finishing my full-time work at office so that when I come home, I can have some time for myself and then maybe just freshen up and start afresh with my freelance work.
Mhm.
I don't meddle the work in between. I try to
Right.
keep them very separate because that's a
Mhm.
requirement from my workplace as well as value for myself. When I was working for other companies where, freelancing during work, which is again value for myself that I don't do freelance work at work. Um, it's the difference is somehow I see the pressure is lifted. When I freelance,
Mhm.
I feel the pressure is lifted. Even though
Mhm.
there is a deadline in both works. Full-time job, of course, there's a deadline. Everyone can imagine that. Everyone working in corporate or even in government sectors can imagine there are deadlines for work. But in freelance, the deadline pretty much gives me the deadline is pretty much the fun factor here because
Okay.
here is how I can stretch my work according to the
Mhm.
deadline. So if suppose I have a calendar to design for a client. So I could maybe the client has asked for it to be delivered maybe by Saturday. So I have this stretch of time. So if I am confident enough in myself that I can make the calendar, studying the niche of the client and studying everything that his business is or our business is, mm, if I'm confident enough that I can make it in 2 days, then the rest of the 2 days, that is tomorrow and Thursday, so I have Friday and Saturday for the client. Tomorrow and Thursday, I can prioritize,
Mhm.
which I was talking about. I can prioritize my other tasks that need to be delivered in
Right.
between the same time. So the
Mhm.
difference here is that exactly that the pressure is lifted. I don't have
Mhm.
to, keep talking to some manager. I don't have to keep talking to some colleagues or maybe consult a SEO specialist for the task.
Right.
I have to
Mhm.
be confident enough for my own work here, and the
Uh-huh.
client is the judge. That's the difference.
Right. I can relate to that because when I was transitioning from my full time to freelance job, I was briefly, like you, simultaneously working on both at the same time. And
Mhm.
what I noticed is in my full time job, I never got to speak to the manager directly until I went to a senior role. When
Yeah.
I was still an intern or I was still one among the content team, there was always a content team lead. And they would bridge the gap between me and the CEO of the company. Whereas when I started freelancing, there is no middleman there. It's directly me with the decision makers of the company. So there was a clear road between me and them.
Okay.
Speaking of the CEOs of companies, there is this problem I'm facing with a lot of them where they just don't trust me most of the time. When I give them some content, they tend to check it on AI detectors, and most of these detectors tend to flag the content as AI. And even if I promise them and I give them my word for it that I wrote it on my own, they tend to have a bit of skepticism. So, what do you think about this AI revolution? Is it a threat for content writers like us? Or not just content writers, but you're also into design, you're also into different parts of marketing. Do
Yeah.
you see it as a threat, and how do you cope with it?
Uh, it was exactly this same question was asked to me by my manager when I was interviewing for this job, and
Okay.
I kind of feel it in my heart that answering this question helped me crack this interview, and it was one of the toughest interviews I have ever had to be at.
Okay.
Okay, so they asked me the same question, and I told them uh, every time a new thing is invented, and that new thing has some kind of good side and a bad side. Okay,
Yeah.
so I come from an economics background. I majored in economics in my bachelor's. So there was this uh, economics, as you know, is all about finances and
Per
money.
capita
Yeah, per
GDP.
capita, GDP, all that boring stuff. But there was this one line from economics that just stuck with me. It was about money. That money is a good servant, but a bad master. I
Mm-hmm.
I feel AI is very much the same. You can turn it into your servant. It can do your bidding, but if you let it overpower you, it'll become your master. I have seen countless content writers, some of my friends who have depended upon AI generation, content generation so much that they are losing their writing capability. Okay. So it is a threat to content writers in that way. It is never going to
Mm-hmm.
replace content writers. Companies are always going to need content writers because the algorithm that we are writing for, the social media algorithm, the Google algorithm, they still they still prefer human touch. So this same thing was happening to me too at this toxic work culture where I was at, and I was having to write 2 or 3 blogs every single day, different niches,
Mm-hmm.
long
Mm-hmm.
blogs. So I was depending
Mm-hmm.
upon AI a lot. A lot of my content that I was writing for them was AI generated, and the company was okay with it. But what I realized, and my friends, my fellow content writers there, my colleagues, didn't, is that exposure to AI, that free exposure, I say, it's free
Mm-hmm.
exposure. ChatGPT 4.0, it's a free exposure, right? So that exposure is actually ruining your ability
Okay.
if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a good servant, but a bad master. And to
Mm-hmm.
answer the question point blank, no, it can never replace any human being because the
Right. You're
algorithm,
not threatened by it.
no, we're not threatened by it. I am not
Right.
threatened by it. My content
Mm-hmm.
is, I write my own content. Huh. Even if I don't understand any topic, that's when I go to ChatGPT. Maybe that's when
Mm-hmm.
I go to the internet. Okay. Suppose today, if a client asks me to write about um, thermodynamics, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Science, I didn't study science. So instead of just going through different pages on the SERP of Google, I can just get a very, actually a brilliant summary from ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything is there. I understand it.
Right.
I write it in my own words with a human.
Mm-hmm.
There was this, I have to mention it because we're speaking about
Right.
algorithms. There was this href convention, some kind of conference, conference
Okay.
at
Uh-huh.
Singapore, and my boss visited it actually. So he came back and gave us very good SEO. uh,
Okay. Like his
tips.
takeaways from the meeting.
Yeah, takeaways.
Hmm.
So there was this company that was doing all kinds of SEO to rank on
Okay.
Google. And there was their competitor, a very old man who has no idea about digital marketing, no idea about content marketing, no idea about SEO. He was doing no SEO. He was just writing personalized content.
Hmm.
A shoe. He was selling. It was this shoe company. So he was selling his shoes. Okay, and he was just writing the product descriptions, the blogs, according to his experience, how he was
Hmm.
experiencing his own shoes. And Google was actually ranking this old man's company instead of that company that was doing all the SEO, putting in all the codes and
Okay.
keywords and schemas and everything. So this is
Hmm.
what we get from this is what we learn that
Hmm.
the algorithm prefers human touch, personalized content that we have to write. The titles, the blog titles
Hmm.
we are required to write these days at my full-time jobs are have to have these personalized nouns, pronouns like I
Right, right.
experienced it, we talked to these,
Uh-huh.
uh,
Yeah.
it helped us in this way.
Hmm.
Google is looking for first-hand experience, not just data that
Oh,
is
okay.
already there on the internet. You just copy it, paste it in another format, and just roll it
Oh,
further.
this is new to me actually. I don't know about our viewers, but this is personally an insight for me because
Yeah.
I was only focused on writing you-oriented content. Like the audience doesn't want to know about
Mm.
like business owners do this or it's a good idea to do this. They want to see statements like you should do this. It's a good idea if you did this. I was
Yeah.
more focused on you statements. I didn't know that I statements are trending right now.
Yeah, I statements. Your personal experience is very much important to Google because
Right.
Google trusts you as a good writer, as an author.
Hmm.
Just consider Google a market, and whatever you write is your book. So
Uh-huh.
to rank higher, you
Right.
have to put in your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
So speaking of, yeah.
even when it comes to fiction, I was reading this book. I have been reading this book for a long time. The Book Thief.
Mhm.
I'm
By Marcus Zusak, I love it. It
yeah.
was the first book I read, the first novel I read.
Oh wow, is it? So that's amazing. It is narrated by death itself. So death
Yeah.
is narrating it. I was there. I stepped into the train. I was there. I was hovering over these dead bodies and all that stuff. And that I thing is capturing me so much. It just
Mhm.
clings to you.
Yeah.
It's amazing how he's written it. And I don't know how or where he got the idea to narrate the
Right.
story from death's perspective, like personifying death. It's the whole
Yeah.
book is like a poem to me. It's amazing. It's amazing.
All of this gives a very unique, creative, and human touch to
Yeah.
content, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of that human touch, there was this incident with one of my clients recently. He is the CEO of a very big company. He
Hmm.
wanted me to write his LinkedIn post for him for his thought leadership. And he specifically told me to make a few mistakes here and there on purpose in the content. Like, for example, creating a bracket and writing the content, but not closing that bracket,
Hmm.
or leaving a double space instead of a single space, or instead of colon, putting a semicolon. Not blatant grammatical mistakes because he is the CEO of a company. But at the same time, these are human mistakes. They are small slip ups that AI does not make.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to make these on purpose so that there is no doubt that it is written by a human being. So, how would you say, if not at such an extreme, how do you add that human touch consciously to your content? Do you like avoid words like embrace or elevate or all of that? Or do you do something else more specific?
Uh, yeah, first things first, I do avoid that word, embrace and embellish and all those kinds of copies. I used to write copies for my earlier job. So yes, I do avoid these copies that just blatantly sound GPT. So embrace the cold season with a sweater and something like that.
Yeah.
So
Elevate your marketing
elevate
landscape
your
with.
marketing landscape. Yeah, yeah. I avoid these words. I don't know. These words are very good words. I used to use them in my college days, but now they have just become these unimaginable copies. Everywhere I see them, I see GPT. Okay, GPT, GPT, GPT. I see,
It's taboo.
yeah, it's a taboo. It's become a taboo. But again, they are words, and every copywriter, every content writer should use them wherever necessary. Just don't maybe try to follow the pattern. Um, uh, yes. To give it a human touch, I do feel that mistakes are very common. Just today, my boss, I recently posted a new blog for for the company that I'm working for. So it was about men's mental health at work.
Mm-hmm.
I was I was asked to conduct a survey and talk to a psychologist. This was all on my own. I have to conduct the survey. I have to come up with the questions and all that. So I did conduct the survey. I talked to the psychologist. This whole blog is new data. Everything is new, first
Okay.
hand
Uh-huh.
data.
Mm-hmm.
So I did all that and everything. I wrote it like I when I was writing it, I was remembering this book, The Book Thief. I was writing it in that perspective. I did this. I asked Dr. Kakoti. I asked
Uh-huh.
Dr. Him, and I these this many people told me that this was the problem and that was the problem. So that was human touch for me. And that blog, my boss went through that blog just today and he found two grammatical errors. Okay. Where
Okay.
even Grammarly couldn't detect it because I ran the whole thing through Grammarly. Even Grammarly couldn't detect it. So he thought it was a grammatical mistake. And he is right. I went through the sentence and yes, there was a need of a comma there. But
Mhm.
again, like you were asked by the client to make some mistakes. I was not asked by anyone to make a mistake, but I did. See, I
Mm-hmm.
did. And that mistake tells people that yes, it was written by Rana and who is not a robot. Okay.
Right.
And there was another mistake where I chose a word. Well, that's a different thing. A robot would choose something else. I chose this word, and he thought it was subjective. He thought it could maybe, uh, provoke people. So he asked me to change it. I did change it. It
Mhm.
was, of course, his company. The blogs will have to be according to him. So I did change it. So yes, in another interview, I was asked, I was shown the Facebook page, and uh, I was asked what mistakes they are making in the post that they are not getting any engagement. So
Okay.
I looked at the page and I said, there is maybe a lot of mistake. This was the exact reply. I said, sir, ma'am, there were three people interviewing me. I said, there may be a lot of mistakes, there may be no mistakes. But the thing is, we are at least trying is a lot at this point because
Mhm.
social media is booming. And at this point that you're trying, even if you make a mistake, it's going to be recognized by Google. It's going to be recognized by
Right.
the algorithm of social media. So whatever mistakes you make, be glorified about them, be proud of them, because a lot of people are not making any mistakes, and this lot is maybe ruining themselves with chat gpt content, or I don't know, some other AI generative content.
Claude or Google Bard, like
Yeah,
Gemini, so many.
Gemini, Copilot.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This goes on.
But just letting our audience know, we are not saying that the best way to get out of AI detectors is to make mistakes. We do
Yeah.
want you to come up with quality content.
Hmm.
It's just think like a human, is the takeaway. Like, as a human being, would you say this, or would you write this, or would you convey this in such a way? Like, when AI gives random metaphors, like the complex dance, the delicate balance between, like, as a human being, I wouldn't speak like that.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing a blog, I'm going to think like a human because the human is going to read it. So that is
Exactly.
the takeaway we are coming to say. Don't make mistakes on purpose.
No, don't make mistakes on purpose, but do frame your sentences like a normal human being. Don't just because you have to tick that thing,
Right.
at the end of a website or at the start of a website that actually identifies you as a human. It's not necessarily it's not necessary
Yeah.
that you think like a robot. You have to think like
Right. Hmm. So my last question to you, Rana, is many people think that the choice between freelancing and full time is an either or statement. Either you're a freelancer or you're a full timer. But you're looking at it as an and statement. You are a freelancer and a full timer at the same time. So, what is your message to people who are thinking of doing this, but for some reason they are skeptical? Like people who think, I don't want to get into this and then end up messing both of it. Or what if I get into freelancing and the people at my full time job find out? And then I end up messing up both of them. People who are in that skeptical state, what message would you give to them?
okay. First of all, the first message is don't go um, don't go behind the back of your company and stab them. If it's okay with your manager, if it's okay with your company, only freelance then. And many people, especially in India, they freelance because it's a side hustle for their income. Okay, let's just speak practically. It is a side hustle for many people that they freelance to earn a little extra money. But there are many people who freelance because they don't get to do what they are very good at additionally at their full-time job. So
Mm-hmm.
I also do designing, but I'm not saying that I'm very good at it. Uh, So I write content at my full-time job, but I don't get to do any designing there. I do direct some blog pictures and all that, but I don't get my hands dirty with designing. I do
Mm-hmm.
want to learn Photoshop. I do want to learn Adobe Illustrator, but I don't get to do that on at my full-time job. But when it comes to freelancing, I can do this. Suppose it was not designing. I wanted to be a painter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you put an or there? Your full-time
Okay.
job is necessary for your survival in a city if you're living alone. And painting is something that maybe keeps you up at night. Whatever you see, maybe you see person, or maybe you see a baby, maybe you see a temple, a church, a mosque, a street, and it just comes to you. To a poet,
Mm-hmm.
it comes to them in words. To a painter,
Mm-hmm.
it comes to them in
Visuals.
colors, in shape. So when you get home, when you're at rest in your leisure time, you want to get your hands dirty with painting. I'm not saying that you earn money with it, but if you
Mm-hmm.
have to do it, if you want to do it, how can you add an or there? Either my full-time job or my painting. No, you have to have
Mm-hmm.
end there. Either my full-time job and painter as a freelance.
That's nice.
You don't always have to earn money. You suppose you are a freelance uh, painter for an NGO that's not yet paying you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In today's in today's time, we have added this invisible monetary value to it. Whenever we say freelancer, we say we just it just pops in our head that that person must be earning money because he's freelancing. What if you're just freelancing
Mm-hmm.
for fun? What if you're freelancing for an orphanage? Maybe painting some
Mm-hmm.
pictures for the children there. Maybe you're freelancing
Mm-hmm.
for a church. There, I know a guy. He's a very good friend of mine. He is a freelance musician for his church congregation.
Oh, I thought that just comes under volunteering. I didn't know it comes under freelancing.
But he does freelancing for his church as well. He
Right.
designs banners. He designs campaigns. Writes
Mm-hmm.
copies for they have this something they put
Yeah.
out every
Bulletin
Sunday.
board.
Yeah, bulletin
Yeah.
boards and stuff. It keeps you up at night if it's your passion, if it's something that you're having, maybe you couldn't make a full-time job out of, but you're very much interested in, you can freelance, you can volunteer in it. Just don't stop. Don't stop
Mm-hmm.
just because you have a job. Maybe this job doesn't define you. Oprah
Mm-hmm.
Winfrey, in her speech, said, some days you may not want to go to your job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because you hate your job. It's because everyone
Mm-hmm.
feels it this way. But go to your job anyway. Because this job
Right.
doesn't define you. It's just that bridge to becoming who you want to be.
Thank you so much for your time, Rana, and thanks to everybody who's been watching till this point. I personally got a lot of insights speaking from one writer to another. I'll definitely be writing my next blog with I statements and more of a storytelling format. Thank you for your time and thanks for watching till here. If you'd like to work with Rana or learn more and speak to him, I will leave his social links in the description. And thanks, Rana. Thanks for your time. Thanks to everyone who watched. Stay tuned for the next one.
Bye.